Journeying through the diamond suit, we encounter the Three of Diamonds after having successfully dealt with the Ace of Diamonds and the Two of Diamonds. Now, the Three of Diamonds is, for most people, a rather tricky card. Why? Number one, it is mainly placed on the Venus line with all its odd cards, and that for a lot of people is a great challenge, especially with 2 sevens and 2 nines, 2 red sevens and 2 black nines. Then it has an Ace of Spades in Mercury. We'll get to that in a little while. But just in general, here we've got a card that is placed on the Mercury line and it's placed in the Uranus position. So it's a very mental card, a very strong mind, but on the other hand, it's also a card that disrupts, that likes to see things differently, that likes to approach things differently. And that's something that many people don't actually understand, because for them it needs to be the same, it needs to be the way they see it, and they don't have any space for alternative viewpoints or approaches. But for the Three of Diamonds, that is its natural territory. Mindful, well, not in the esoteric sense, but very mental, and then very disruptive. The prime example, by the way, for a Three of Diamonds birth card is the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald John Trump, born on June 14th, 1946. Three of Diamonds. This card is also, to finish off our little intro here, is also tricky because it has hearts cards in very challenging positions. You know, we want to have a relatively harmonious relationship life, because, I mean, if we don't relate in a harmonious way, why relate at all? But here we've got a Seven of Hearts in Venus, a Jack of Hearts in Saturn, and a Two of Hearts in Pluto. So the lifelong transformation, and we get to each of those cards in a moment, the lifelong transformation is about stability, union in love. The Saturn card is the teacher. That's where we have to learn a lot. That's spiritual sacrifice, spiritual love. That's the Christ card. Venus line, Jupiter column. And in Venus itself, it has the card of spiritual love. It has the card of frustrations and losses, disappointments in love, the Seven of Hearts. So there's a card with rather difficult relationship karma. But now let's go through the 7 cards plus the Pluto cards one by one. In Mercury, we find the aforementioned Ace of Spades. So not only does the Three of Diamonds have a strong mind in general, it has a very strong mental card in its mental position, in the position of Mercury, where it's about communication, where it's about processing things, where it's about quickness, etc. And the Ace of Spades is the card of secrets, the card of secret societies, the cards of transformation. It's probably one of the most transformative cards on the planet. So here in Mercury, we have a card that is very self-centered and tricky to work with. Ace of Spades people are notoriously difficult to work with. And here we've got a Three of Diamonds with an Ace of Spades in Mercury. So their mind is in a way spiritually inclined, but it's all about endings, it's all about transformations, because the Three of Diamonds is about creativity, variety on the value side. So it's about making deals, one up, more deals, always on the move, always trying to create a strategic advantage for oneself. And if we take Donald Trump as an example, in what he's doing with his real estate business, that's exactly that kind of energy. And with that Ace of Spades, there is a link to the spiritual side that he may or not be aware of, that he may be acting out subconsciously or not at all, because it's the first card in the spade suit. So it's the desire for wisdom, and that is his Mercury card. And that is not an easy card to have in the mind, because it's a mind that is very convinced of itself, because it's a ace, fives, and tens, very self-centered. So he thinks that he is right, or anyone with the three of diamonds, they think they are right. Very little space for negotiations, and that little space for negotiations revisits us when we come to the Pluto card, which is the Two of Hearts, which is all about union in love, compromise, negotiation, harmony on the relationship side, not just intimate relationships, but relationships in general. So Ace of Spades, a card that is also concerned with secrets, doing things differently, transforming things, ending things. Referring to our notes, we find out that the Ace of Spades in Mercury says communication here runs deep, deeper than most would guess at first glance. The Ace of Spades under Mercury brings a sharp, penetrating mind, someone who doesn't just skim the surface of life's questions, but seeks the root of the matter. The Three of Diamonds might appear light or scattered, referring to our example that we just had, but this Mercury card gives them an inner engine of curiosity that constantly turns over ideas until they discover a core truth. It's like a detective's instinct wrapped in a philosopher's robe, a drive to dig, to name, and to understand what's hidden. But once again, it's the beginning of the spade suit. It's the desire for wisdom, so there's no prior experience in that thread, so that makes it rather erratic at times. And I think that makes perfect sense when we look at the example given, here with Donald Trump, erratic at times, scattered, might appear light or scattered, but is always curious, always turning over ideas until they discover or uncover a core truth. And I think that's particularly true now in his second term. But it's not about him, it's about the Three of Diamonds, and we'll continue with the Venus card here. As I mentioned before, we find the Seven of Hearts. Lane change, we are now on the Venus line. Venus line characterized by odd cards, and here we start with the first seven. It's his own Venus card, so it's a card of emotional losses. Not easy, it's about a spiritual love, but in the Venus position, tricky. Here, love and relationships are karmic classrooms. The Seven of Hearts under Venus challenges the Three of Diamonds to move from conditional love to unconditional presence. The Seven of Hearts under Venus challenges the Three of Diamonds to move from conditional love to unconditional presence. There's a tendency to feel let down by people. Refer back to that person, you'll know exactly why. Especially when expectations are unspoken. But this card teaches emotional maturity. The lesson is offer your heart without a ledger. Emotional disappointment becomes the ground for liberation when the Three of Diamonds stops chasing external validation, example, and instead offers love as an expression of their own integrity. It's beautiful. I mean, I just picked out Donald Trump, and I think he's a perfect example of the Three of Diamonds. There's the creative drive, there's the variety on the value side, always looking for deals, because he's made sort of in his chronological order, he's come out of the Two of Diamonds, now he's the Three of Diamonds. So he's made those deals, he's learned his ropes, and now he's expanding on that. More variety, very curious. But once again, sort of when you do a lot of dealing, often, love or money, often the love department suffers. And we had this with the Ace of Diamonds, we had this with the Two of Diamonds. Love or money, love or money. And it's almost no different, or a little different here with the Three of Diamonds. So there will be losses. There will be losses and disappointments in the life of Three of Diamonds. And the nice thing is, the cards tell them. And if you don't develop consciousness around a certain area, a certain subject, that will happen subconsciously, if you like it or not. If you know, you can adjust and you can minimize, or you can completely reverse that tendency, that energy. That's the whole point of this. Become aware of the strength, but also become aware of the weaknesses so that we can turn them around. And here, In the love department, 7 of Hearts, tricky. It's again, 7 goes inwards. Love is about relationships, it's about emotions, it's about our feeling side. And here the 3 of Diamonds is asked to turn inwards to find unconditional love. And don't look for outside approval. Other people may not offer it to you. So find that love first and foremost for yourself, because the validation may not come from the outside. That continues as we move to the 3rd position, and that's the Mars position. And here we find the 7 of Diamonds. We know that the 7 of Diamonds, we know that from the 9 of Hearts, if you've watched that video in the chronological order, but the 7 of Diamonds is a semi-fixed card and connected to the 9 of Diamonds. 9 of Hearts, sorry. 7 of Diamonds in the double Venus position, 9 of Hearts in the double Saturn position. They just swap position, switch every year. Yeah, like it. So the 7 of Diamonds is either double Venus or its true place is double Saturn. It's the card of spiritual values. And in its core, being in the double Saturn, it likes order and structure, and it can create tremendous wealth. And here in the mundane expression, in the worldly expression, it has chosen the double Venus position, which is about relationships, but it's also about work and about money. So here, under his Mars card for the 3 of Diamonds, the 7 of Diamonds as a Mars card means that values will be pursued with vigor, with dynamism, very clear, and can make really tremendous amounts of money. And we've seen this with Donald J. Trump. I mean, that's his business. The notes say there's a tension here between action and worth. Mars wants to push forward, but the 7 of Diamonds calls for inner trust over external results. For the 3 of Diamonds, this creates a drive to prove themselves, often in work or through achievements. Perfect example. But if they chase applause, perfect example, or income, perfect example, too aggressively, it backfires. The real strength lies in detaching from outcome and learning to act from faith in their values. When they serve a mission bigger than ego, perfect example, energy flows, perfect example. I mean, it's beautiful how that energy is reflected so strongly and so obviously in that person, or in a person like Donald Trump. When they try to impress others, the engine sputters. Lovely. And I think that's all that needs to be said here about the 7 of Diamonds. So tremendous potential, but then again, sort of 7 again here on the 7 of Diamonds, inwards, values, inner trust over external results. Serve a mission bigger than ego. If your engine sputters, if you put ego first, and if you try to impress others, you don't want to do this. And we've seen this, because that's exactly when you rub people up the wrong way. When sort of you come with your ego all the time. And Donald is a perfect example for a massively overinflated ego, massively overinflated. He has its good side, obviously, but I mean, this is the way he's portraying himself, and this is when he is inviting trouble. That's when he's inviting impeachment. That's when he's inviting, I wouldn't say attacks on his life, but certainly massive criticism. And that's also sort of when he's setting himself up for failure. And you can see that. It's not rocket science. And you can see, if we look at now current date, 22nd of August 2025, maybe it's even only 10 to 25, but let's say it's 2025. But that's another story. If we look at the current affairs right now, you can see how his ego causes shifts on the global scene with the Russians, with the Chinese, with the Indians. And today, sort of China said it's behind India. I mean, when did that happen? And China, Russia, and India are getting closer and closer and closer in terms of trade. And that's the idiotic, in a way, behavior of a 3 of Diamonds president of a failing world power. And you see the dynamics, how that is playing itself out. Wrong causes, wrong effects, no surprises. Certainly not if, if you understand how a person operates and how you can read someone like Donald Trump literally like a book. And in actually tomorrow, no, what's it? When is it? It's tonight. It's tonight at 7:30 p.m. EDT. Donald Trump goes live. And this video will appear, funny enough, if I look at the scheduling, will appear a couple of hours later. So look out for the other video on this planet where we analyzed, Karen Chabot and I analyzed Donald Trump. It was a premiere, and it's also on this channel. So have a look. Moving on, Jupiter, we find the Five of Spades, another odd card after 1 ace and 2 sevens. Fourth card, fourth odd card. And here, expansion comes through change. Five of Spades, a very restless card, and a card of changing lifestyle, a card of changing work. And that also fits into Donald's scheme, where his growth comes from constant change. Let's see. Especially lifestyle and identity. The Five of Spades under Jupiter invites bold experimentation. The Three of Diamonds thrives when they don't box themselves into one profession, one way of being, or one definition of success. This card blesses them with permission to evolve, to shed skin regularly, and to find abundance through reinvention. It's not chaos, it's sacred flexibility. Life rewards them most when they answer the call to roam, explore, and adapt. So for Three of Diamonds, it's absolutely critical in a way under Jupiter, if they want to grow, to constantly stay on the move, to constantly reinvent themselves, to constantly change things. That's Five of Spades energy. Not much more needs to be said about this, but also, again, it's reflected in Donald's life, where he's doing this and he's doing that, and always new projects that keep expanding his horizon, and in this case also his pocket. Then we move on to Saturn, and there we find a card that I mentioned before, which is rather challenging for the Three of Diamonds, and that is the Jack of Hearts, because Saturn is the teacher, Saturn is the taskmaster, and the Saturn position is the position where we often have to learn the most. And here, the Three of Diamonds needs to learn the most in the area of spiritual sacrifice, spiritual love. Seven of Hearts we had, now spiritual sacrifice, the Jack of Hearts. Saturn, the great teacher, brings a lesson in humility through selfless service. The Jack of Hearts is the sacrificial initiate, someone who grows by putting ego aside, perfect example, and acting from the heart. Not a perfect example, because I think he is completely failing on that. That's my perspective. Your perspective may differ, but I mean, so this is someone, and if you act from a heart, you communicate differently. Your expression is a completely different one than if you act from ego and from mind alone. But here, someone who grows by putting ego aside and acting from the heart. For the Three of Diamonds, this might mean learning to slow down and show up for others without calculating the return. Very difficult for a Three of Diamonds. Very difficult for a Three of Diamonds with an Ace of Spades in Mercury. It's a stretch. They love motion, variety, and freedom. Five of Spades in Jupiter. It's like in their DNA, but also here Jack of Hearts energy, love, motion, variety, and freedom. But Saturn says, can you be loyal? Can you show up when it's not glamorous? It's a test of spiritual maturity, and they grow every time they choose hard over hustle. That's what he still has to learn. Whether he learns it in his 80th year, I have no idea. But apart from him, Three of Diamonds, that's the lesson. Ego aside, act from the heart, spiritual love, that's your Saturn lesson. That's where you have to learn the most. We're moving on to the Uranus card, and there we find the first of our two nines. That's the Nine of Clubs. The wild card of their mind is the Nine of Clubs, a card of mental endings and deep shifts in belief. Under Uranus, which is their own position, by the way, right? Because they're the Uranus card on the Mercury line. It makes the Three of Diamonds mentally innovative, yes, but also unpredictable. Perfect example. Mentally innovative, but also unpredictable. One day saying this, other day saying that. And especially in this year, because the Five of Spades that we just had under Jupiter, now he has that Five of Spades as his Mercury card. So you can, sort of can't think of a more erratic mind, someone is contradictory, someone that doesn't, says A on Monday and B on Tuesday, and doesn't make sense to the world, his peers, and probably not to himself either. But that's Five of Spades energy. And here with that Nine of Clubs, because of endings and deep shifts in belief, shifts always means change. Here we find that innovative energy, but also unpredictable. Insights arrive like lightning, and old thought patterns get swept away in an instant. There's genius here, but also need for grounding. They must learn to discern between epiphany and impulse. Once you have an epiphany, and I see this with myself too, once you have this epiphany, you are almost like urged to or driven to act on impulse and tell it to the world. But no, process it internally first, add to it, remove from it, and then go out to the world. Not every epiphany needs to be shared with the world on impulse straight away. When they do, their ideas aren't just new, they are timeless. Lovely ending of that. So Nine of Clubs in Uranus means endings, but Uranus brings in that unpredictable, sudden energy. So for the Nine of Clubs in Uranus, it means that their endings, mental constructs, often come through in unconventional ways and suddenly. It's not something that is like building up slowly and just predictably. No, this comes like bomb. Lightning. Insights arrive like lightning. And old thought patterns get swept away in an instant. Lovely Nine of Clubs energy. And again, sevens and nines are not easy for humans, because the seven is the spiritual card and the internal card, and most people are living in the outer world, so they have no connection to themselves. And then with the nines, it's a card of endings, and we don't want endings. We want things to last forever. But nothing lasts forever. Everything comes to an end. And for us, it's a constant, not acquainting ourselves with endings, but a constant being. We have to be ready. Hermann Hesse sort of wrote about this nicely. We have to be ready for endings all the time, because endings are always the gateway and the portal to new beginnings. And that continues as we come to Neptune, and here we find yet another nine. It's the Nine of Spades, so 2 black nines, 2 red sevens, and it says, here we enter the fog. The Nine of Spades under Neptune can feel like invisible losses or a persistent sense of surrender. For the Three of Diamonds, it means releasing control over things that cannot be forced, especially endings. There's spiritual depth here, Ace of Spades and Mercury, or sort of a little bit connected to that, but also risk of illusion or avoidance. If you do not understand your blueprint, if you do not understand who you are, it will automatically come to unexpected endings, Nine of Clubs under Uranus, and it will come to disappointments because you don't understand what's going on. That's why we're dealing with the system, so that we do understand what's going on and that we can adjust accordingly, because nowhere is written what we have to think, what we have to do. We decide, and if we are not bringing things into our consciousness, into our conscious awareness, those things will act them out themselves on a subconscious level, and they will happen for us without our conscious input. So here it's important. They may be tempted to numb, to distract, or to deny uncomfortable truth. Perfect example, once again. But when they allow themselves to grieve what's gone and walk forward open-hearted, grace floods in. And grace, certainly on the external display of Donald Trump, is, from my point of view, missing. If you know other Three of Diamonds people, you may be able to relate. Finally, Pluto, Two of Hearts. Seven of Hearts and Venus, Jack of Hearts and Saturn, and now lifelong transformation, ego, death, Pluto, Two of Hearts, the union and love. That is the subject for Donald's or for any Three of Diamonds lifelong transformation. They want to create union and harmony and stability and passiveness, predictability on the relationship side. And here the notes say, for the deepest transformation comes through intimate connection. The Two of Hearts and Pluto ask the Three of Diamonds to face their fears around closeness, fear of losing self, of being seen, of being rejected. Their growth hinges on their ability to stay present in love, even when it's messy or confronting. It's not about merging or losing individuality. It's about transforming through emotional honesty. When they stop running and stay in the fire of relationship, they are reborn. So relationship-wise, the Three of Diamonds has been given quite a bundle to handle with those three cards. But if we add that Ace of Spades and Mercury, it's another card. It's a fourth card. The sooner they learn to step back and not to overinflate the ego, the sooner they move or they open themselves up to receive all that Two of Hearts energy provides. As they stay in ego, aggrandize themselves, the more trouble they invite. And once again, Donald Trump is a perfect example of that. When they stop running and stay in the fire of relationship, they are reborn. Grace floods in. And as is Three of Diamonds, with those two nines in Uranus and Neptune, endings, especially later in life, are almost like pre-programmed, destined. Learn to let go, grieve what's gone, and look forward to what is ahead. Higher level of awareness, improved life quality, quality of life, perhaps. But for the Three of Diamonds, the later years, which are represented or reflected through Uranus and Neptune, there will be a lot of endings. A lot of endings. Either sudden endings with that Nine of Clubs in Uranus, or endings that have been consciously created. And I think that's what, in Donald's case, he is actually doing at this point in time in the year 2025. Endings, endings, endings. Not always the most elegant way, very ego-driven, very egocentric. And I mean, that movement, Make America Great Again, that is as egocentric as it can be. Fine if you live on an island, if America is all that exists, but if you have other countries, if you have other economies, if you have other realities to consider, if you're dependent on production, let's say in China, or workforce that comes from India or from Europe or from Mexico, you know, keep a low profile, be humble, and not like that Jack of Diamonds energy that the United States displays. But that's a subject for another video. Here we are with the Three of Diamonds. We are finishing off with our outro. Life is a canvas of shifting values and creative tension. These planets reveal a path that weaves intellect, heart, action, and spirit into a dance of meaningful evolution. With every choice, every connection, and every inner reckoning, this soul carves a new definition of what truly matters. Not fixed, not finished, but always becoming one diamond decision at a time. And here, for the Three of Diamonds, it's really a call to always turn inwards. On the Venus and the Mars side, 2 sevens, inward movement. In terms of love and in terms of values. Very, very important for a Three of Diamonds native. If they only live in the outer world, which that Three of Diamonds and the Ace of Spades and Mercury pushes them towards, then they will not find much happiness in their lifetime. So knowing the cards is being able to handle the cards, is being able to reverse energies, because nothing is cast in concrete, nothing is written in stone. But if you don't know, then you don't have the cards. Well, I think that is a lovely finish to this 3 of Diamonds card. That said, if you liked it, you know what to do. Pass it on to other 3 of Diamonds. The birthdays, once again, are shown here so that you know who's got a 3 of Diamonds as a birth card, but also look if you have a 3 of Diamonds as a planetary ruling card, because then that energy also influences you, and it could actually influence you much more than your actual birth card. That is not to be forgotten. If you want to delve into the subject a little more, then sort of feel free to download the app. It is shown in the trailer. Free of charge to use on iOS and Android. If you want to dive even deeper, then sort of you take out a subscription or do a one-time payment, and then you can enjoy this app to its max. And if you'd like to have a personal consultation, please feel free to contact me. I'm always available and willing and happy to help you along your path to greatness. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.